For a long time, it seemed like electric cars were expensive novelties with small ranges, and they were never really a mainstream option.
But things are very different now, with loads of options costing less than a petrol-powered BMW 3 Series, all with ranges of more than 150 miles, and these are two of the best.
The Renault Zoe was the world's first Ford Fiesta-sized small electric car. Since 2013, it's undergone quite a few changes in tech and design, and now it stands with a great-looking interior and an official range of more than 230 miles. Right now, you can get a saving of almost £3,000 on whatcar.com. The new Peugeot e-208 is its biggest challenger. The petrol-powered 208 is one of our favourite small cars. This electric version is priced closely to the Zoe with a range of just 20 miles shorter. But how does it compare as an EV?
Let's start with the interiors and the e-208. Inside, probably the first thing you'll notice if you get in is this weirdly small steering wheel. Now, it's not new to Peugeot, it's been around for a while, but on every one that we've tried, we're always going to say that it's not going to work for everyone because some people are going to have it unnaturally low in order to have an unobstructed view of the dials above it. So it's going to be something that you're going to have to try for yourself. These dials as well, on every trim above entry-level active, you get a 3D effect with it. But having spent a bit of time with it, it does feel a bit like style over substance because it's just not as simple and clear to glance at quickly, get the information you need, as a simple 2D layout. Although you do have a few different choices of layout for the dials, and if you cycle down to minimum, then that essentially gets rid of the 3D stuff and makes it look like a simple 2D layout. So that's not necessarily an issue, and the rest of the interior is really, really excellent. It looks great. These materials are really nice, squidgy where they should be, and the build quality is excellent as well. It is certainly more inspiring than a Vauxhall Corsa E inside, and it's only really a mini electric that feels even plusher.
It's not all good in the e-208 though. The infotainment system gets either a 7 or 10-inch screen depending on spec. The graphics are clear enough, but the menus could be more intuitive, and there's often a delay between you pressing the screen and anything happening. And frustratingly, the climate control is operated in the touchscreen, which is difficult to adjust on the move. The Zoe overall has the better infotainment system. Most versions get a 7-inch screen, but this range-topping GT line trim has a 9.3-inch one. The screen's graphics are sharper than the Peugeot's and it responds quicker to inputs, plus the menus are easier to fathom. Like the e-208, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto come as standard.
And it's got physical dials for the air conditioning, which is much better. But the first thing you notice when you get in the Zoe is just how high up you sit. And also the first thing you'll want to do, or the first thing I wanted to do, is lower the seat to get it into a lower driving position. But you can't do that on the Zoe, you are stuck like this. So it's not going to be to everyone's taste, especially if you are particularly tall. And it does result in this kind of bus driver driving position. But elsewhere, if you're familiar with older versions of the Zoe, then you'll notice straight away how much nicer it is inside this latest version of it. All the materials are nice up here on the dash and squidgy. You've got this gloss black finish on the infotainment system. This fabric on the door is a good touch as well. But it isn't that hard to find cheaper feeling, harder, scratchier plastics around. Particularly, this has got a nice design with these piano key shortcut buttons, but look at the movement there, they don't feel particularly expensive or robust. And also this metal and leather effect gear selector looks good, but you get quite a cheap twang when you need to use it and release it quickly, so that's slightly disappointing. But overall, undeniably massively better than before, but not as good as the e-208. Even though you do sit much higher up in the Zoe, the actual space on offer in the front is really good on both cars, and there isn't much to separate them there. In the back, neither car is particularly impressive, although the e-208 does offer a little bit more headroom. However, that's only when you're sitting like this, because if you want to rest your head on the headrest, well, I actually can't, because this sloping roofline that comes back and then this bit that sticks out back here means that when you want to sit back like this, the headroom on offer is actually less than you get in the Zoe. And also these rear doors don't open particularly wide. Access to the rear seats is better as a result of the wider door opening back here, although you can see there are similar headroom issues as there are in the e-208, but legroom is better.
There's no compromise on practicality if you go for an e-208 instead of a petrol or diesel version of the car. Luggage space is the same, and you should be able to fit 5 carry-on size suitcases inside. If you're tempted by an optional Bose sound system in the Zoe, just bear in mind that the subwoofer cuts into boot space. With it, you'll fit 5 suitcases in there. Without it, you'll get 6. So they're fairly close on practicality, but how do they compare for price?
The range-topping GT e-208 is too expensive to recommend, and the entry-level Active is too basic. But in the middle of its lineup, it's priced pretty similarly to the Zoe. Although, when you factor in things like servicing, depreciation, insurance, then the Zoe is a little bit cheaper to run over a few years. Especially because right now you can save more than £2,800 off one on whatcar.com. And if you want to buy on a PCP monthly finance deal, it's also a little bit cheaper as well. But the differences aren't enormous. But we all know that with electric cars, what you really want to know is how far will they go on a full charge? Well, the e-208 has a claimed electric range of 217 miles. But what you can expect in real-world driving conditions is around 160 miles, and it should manage that easily even in winter. With the Zoe, we can be a bit more accurate in what you can expect because we've been able to put it through our independent real range test. And there, it recorded a result of 192 miles from a full charge, which is really impressive. Admittedly, it's not quite as far as more expensive electric rivals like the Kia e-Niro, but much further than the Mini Electric and the Nissan Leaf.
To charge up, the Zoe takes quite a bit longer than its rivals though. There is a rapid charge version available for an extra £750 that can make it quicker, but still slower than competitors.
And the e-208 has an advantage here as well because it can charge at a rate of up to 100 kilowatts, whereas the Zoe and rivals like the Mini Electric can only charge up to 50 kilowatts. The only problem with that being that there aren't actually that many 100 kilowatt chargers in the UK at the minute, but still there are going to be more, and the e-208 has got the upper hand in other areas too, so it's better to drive in pretty much every area. It's more comfortable, it's quieter in here, and even though it's got a basically identical battery capacity and electric motor power output to the Zoe, it's much quicker, noticeably quicker. Plus it's got well-weighted, accurate steering. It's just nicer to drive than the Zoe is. The only area where the Zoe has a slight advantage is in the brake pedal feel, because in the e-208 there's quite a bit of dead travel in it, and then suddenly it gets really grabby as you get into the meat of the pedal. But in the Zoe it's more consistently weighted, but still really all round the e-208 is brilliant. But we can't be quite so positive about the Zoe. It's not an embarrassment by any stretch of the imagination. It's still a good electric car to drive, but it's slower, it's more upright, so you'll notice a lot more body lean through corners, and it doesn't ride as well either. So we're on pretty terrible roads, admittedly, and in the Zoe, you're kind of moved around the interior, and there's a lot more going on than in the e-208, which just feels more settled at any speed. And also, if you hit sharp road imperfections like a manhole cover or a pothole or something like that, the e-208 absorbs it better as well. It's a bit more of a impact in the Zoe. You can get 2 different electric motors in the Zoe. There's an R110 version with 107 brake horsepower, and there's an R135, which is the one that we're in now, with 134 brake horsepower.
Of the two, we'd go for the R110 to keep the price down. But no matter which version you go for, there's an important point to make on safety here, because the Renault Zoe doesn't get automatic emergency braking on entry-level play trim. It's a reasonably priced option on mid-spec Iconic, but only standard on range-topping GT line. The e-208, on the other hand, gets it no matter what trim you go for.
But while it might not be hugely inspiring on the road, the Renault Zoe is still a really good electric car package. It's great value, fairly practical, has a long range, but the e-208 is better to drive, has a nicer interior, and it can charge faster. All things considered, it's one of the best small electric cars that you can buy. To save money off your next new car, go to whatcar.com, make sure you're subscribed, and which of these 2 cars would you have? Let us know in the comments below.